This is something that I was guilty of myself for years early in producing, and we're going to address it right now. So wherever you're at, this is not something you have to battle with in the future. Before we hop into the video, quick announcement for you guys. I recently dropped a super fire, complete start to finish music production course. It's designed to give you every single tool you're ever going to need to produce professional quality music in 30 days. Either if you're totally brand new or if you've been producing for a while but you're just struggling to get your sound to the next level. It's over 17 hours of content distributed over 30 days of learning. We also have a super fire community where you can hop in and ask questions, free monthly sample packs, all kinds of cool stuff. Also, we've recently worked out a deal where if you sign up for the course, we can actually give you guys educational discounts on Ableton Live, FabFilter, Isotope, Sound Toys, Kilohertz, Arturia, and Output. So you can literally save thousands of dollars. And as of right now, the course is on sale, so it costs less than dinner. So definitely worth it, definitely worth checking out. Let's get into the video. So we have here a basic demonstration loop, which consists of a sub bass, a percussive top element, and a vocal, little plucks, and some drums. So what problems do we have with this loop? For one, it hasn't been gain staged at all. So I have not done any turning down or turning up of anything. I am a very big lover of sub bass. I love a big slapping sub bass in my trap, in my hip hop, in my bass music. And so I always struggled to get my sub bass to just sound big and full. And I'm going to show you why that is. And this has a lot to do with the topic of the biggest mistake producers make. So as we can see here, our sub bass is just that. It's slapping. It's super loud. If we look at it on an EQ, it's way up here. It's pretty much as loud as it can get. If we look at it on a meter, super loud. We're at like positive 3 decibels, which is insanely loud. We're actually clipping if we look down here on our main track. And so here's the problem with what we're doing here. It's basically, think of, our elements here. So we have our sub bass, we have our mids, and we have our highs as 3 kids sitting in the back of a Oldsmobile. The sub bass is the big kid. He's the chunky kid. He's tall. He only has so much room before when they hit a bump, he hits his head on the roof of the car, right? And so if we're raising and lowering that roof, this is going to affect him first and then everybody else. So he's going to hit his head first. And once he hits his head, there's no more room to push this down. So anybody else can get further up. So let me explain to you kind of how this relates to what we're talking about here. If there is absolutely zero headroom from our sub bass to as loud as our track's going to be, that means that all of our other elements cannot get any louder than our sub bass here. So like if this is at the absolute limit, this and nothing else can get any louder. So like if everything else doesn't sound as loud, then we're going to start turning it up. We're going to have a big mess. Everything's clipping. Everything's too loud. Whereas if we came over here and we turned this down by negative 4 decibels just to start. We're going to go ahead and open an instance of Span. So Voxengo Span, this is a totally free plugin. I'll link it in the description. And it gives you a reading of decibels and also LUFS and true peak and all this different kind of stuff it's not going to show you on a Spectrum or an EQ. So one trick I've learned is that we kind of want it to hit here around 30, and that's telling us that it's going to be perceived as loud. So notice we turn it down by negative 4. We're no longer clipping here. And now what we're going to do is instead of turning our sub bass up and up and up, we're going to use this healthy level of our sub bass as a reference for everything else. Very important. If our sub bass doesn't sound banging and full, we're not going to turn the sub bass up. We're going to start turning everything else down. So we can give ourselves as much headroom as we want. Like we can turn this down by negative 10. And now our sub is gone. But we're going to start turning everything else down. So let's mix this in one at a time here. This is another technique called top-down mixing, where we're going to start at the lowest frequencies and kind of work our way up until we get a good relationship of volume between the kick and the sub. now notice something. Before we were in the red down here. Now, even with everything playing at the same time, we're not clipping. And that's super important because if you're going to get your track to a mastering engineer, they're going to ask for a negative 3D mix down. What that means is what you're exporting them should be at about negative 3 decibels. That gives them enough headroom to enhance everything without running into problems. And you could say, well, why don't I just turn everything else down? And the answer is because we want to arrive at that decibel level naturally, so we don't have to like crank up and down the volume levels over and over again. So because of something called the pink noise curve, if we look at this on a Pro Q now, we're going to look for a nice subtle curve here, which we have. So we have our lowest, loudest frequency here, like we were talking about. We have the fat kid. Then we have the mids groove, so the kid that's kind of medium. And then we have the smallest kid, which is the high-end frequencies. So because we turned our sub bass down here, that gives us a lot more space to make other elements shine here. So if we wanted a vocal that we really wanted to bring out, now we have that flexibility because our sub is no longer at the very loudest peak it can get. So gain staging is super important. Turn everything else down. Turn down, turn down, turn down. Do not turn up until you absolutely have to. Again, you do want a healthy signal, so we don't want everything way down there. But look at, we're not clipping. If we look at a Swiss Army meter, cool, we're at about -2 true peak. So we're about a decibel away from what we would want to send to a mastering engineer. So I really hope this kind of helped you guys visualize gain staging and the importance of starting low and giving your sub bass room to breathe so everything else can be loud and proportionate. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.